Greetings, kindred friend. Let us spend a truly quiet moment right now. Imagine a late afternoon when streaks of pale yellow sunlight gently pierce through the window, resting lightly on your hands that bear the marks of time. In the quiet room, with only the slow ticking of the clock in the corner, have you ever suddenly asked yourself, how many things have I believed for so long that have actually never been questioned? For over 70 years, we gather fragments of beliefs from family, from social prejudices, and even from the ghosts of fear. We carry them for so long that they become petrified fog, claiming to be the only truth inside your mind. However, the Buddha taught that suffering does not truly come from life itself. It comes from the stories we insist on holding on to. Regrettably, many of those stories are toxic lies. Tonight, I invite you to look deep with me into 8 lies that are silently stealing your peace after age 70. We look back not to judge, but to bravely set that heavy sack down by the roadside and truly rest in complete sovereignty. Lie 1. I still have plenty of time. Dear friend, do you ever realize that time never disappears in a noisy way? It is not like a rumble of thunder, but like morning mist fading under the early sun, silent and irretrievable. When we are 40, our minds often whisper, there is still plenty of time. And then, in a blink of the universe's eye, you are startled to realize you have reached the threshold of 70. Many people crossing into the twilight years carry a secret pain named procrastination. Those are unfinished promises. I will go visit an old friend someday. I will truly rest when the children are settled, or I will call later. We unintentionally turn our lives into a series of waiting rooms for a perfect future that never actually arrives. I remember a man who longed his whole life to learn to play the piano. When retirement came, he bought a magnificent piano and placed it right in the middle of the living room. But every passing day, he covered it with a cloth and told himself, when things slow down, when my mind calms down, I will start learning. However, life is an ever-flowing river. It never truly slows down the way we want. Until his hands were no longer flexible enough to touch the keys, he bitterly realized he had spent his whole life waiting for an illusion. In Buddhist wisdom, the Buddha always reminds us of impermanence, anicca. He taught that this moment is the only place where life truly happens. The word later is not a real location on the map. It is only an illusion woven by the mind to soothe the fear of being present. Impermanence does not come to terrify us, but comes to teach us how to cherish every gulp of oxygen flowing in our veins right now. Tonight, in the forgiving stillness of the dark night, if there is something in your heart that you still always postpone, perform an act of awakening. Ask yourself in the gentlest way, if not now, then when? Do not let your soul live another day in the waiting room of the future. Allow yourself to be loved, to be at peace, and to be fully present right in this breath. Because, dear friend, the only treasure you truly possess is exactly this sacred now. Sleep in absolute appreciation for the very life existing inside you. Lie 2. If I continue to sacrifice, I will be loved. Dear friend, try quietly looking back at the years that have drifted far away. Did you grow up with the belief that love is a reward for devotion? You spent your whole life doing more, shouldering heavier burdens, always prioritizing the needs of children, life partners, and the world above yourself. You silently suppressed personal desires, cleaned up others' broken pieces, and told yourself, someday, when they see how much I have sacrificed, they will compensate me with absolute appreciation and affection. But tonight, standing before the stillness of the empty room, I invite you to face a bitter but liberating reality. Sacrifice never guarantees love. It usually only guarantees the exhaustion of your own soul. Sacrifice does not guarantee love. It only guarantees exhaustion. Cruelly, when you give too much without boundaries, the world will not see the sacrifice. They begin to see it as a default obligation. When you are always present to solve all troubles, people no longer feel grateful. They only see it as a habit. And when you are exhaustedly tired, you suddenly find yourself invisible in the very house you painstakingly built. Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the perfection of generosity, dana, but he always reminds us that true giving must originate from a full soul, not from a depleted heart. You do not need to vanish to love someone. Engrave this into your heart. The kind of love that demands you erase yourself is actually not love. At age 70, I invite you to perform a sacred shift. You still have the right to give, but give with the hands of someone who knows how to love themselves. Tonight, reserve the first care for your heartbeat, for your tired shoulders, and for your soul thirsting for stillness. When you are full from within, your kindness will radiate like moonlight, gentle, sovereign, undemanding, and never exhausted. Do not owe the world your own disappearance for another second. The night is deep. Allow yourself to be fully present, just to be yourself. Lie 3. It is too late to change. Dear friend, do you ever look at an old habit, a hot-tempered personality, or a prolonged sadness and tell yourself, well, at this age, my character is set, the block of stone has petrified, what else is there to change? We often believe that transformation and new beginnings are privileges of youth, while we are just passengers sitting waiting at the final station, letting the train of time wash away opportunities to mend ourselves. However, tonight, let me hand you a liberating truth where modern science and ancient wisdom meet. Scientists have proven that your brain carries a miraculous power to adapt and create new neural connections until the very last breath. Neuroplasticity never knows the concept of retirement. You need to understand that. You are never too old to change. You are just too used to keeping everything exactly the same. In fact, the biggest barrier does not lie in age, but lies in our imagination being narrowed by fear. In Buddhist wisdom, waking up every early morning is a sacred rebirth. There are people who only met the world-honored one when their hair was as white as frost, but they could still reach profound awakening right in the final chapter of their lives. Changing at age 70 does not necessarily have to be giant leaps. Sometimes the most beautiful transformation lies in simple things. The moment you bravely abandon a melancholic nightly habit, when you choose to forgive an old mistake, or the first time you learn how to speak truthful words from the bottom of your heart without fearing judgment. Engrave this soothing truth into your heart before sinking into deep sleep. The door leading to change has never shrunk over time. Only the fear inside us grows. The door to change never shrinks. Only our fear grows. Tonight, allow yourself to be a young sprout once more. Do not let the finished book pages prevent you from continuing to write the most brilliant lines for tomorrow. You are an ever-renewing river every day, not a stagnant lake of yesterday. Sleep in the relief of a soul ready to become fresh in every present breath. Lie 4. My value depends on whether I am useful or not. This is exactly why, after retiring, many of us fall into a deep pit of feeling lost. When the desk is empty, when requesting phone calls becomes sparse, and when children are sturdy enough to walk on their own, your mind begins to whisper a painful lie. If I am no longer needed, it means I am no longer valuable. You see yourself like an obsolete item left on the sidelines of the flow of life. However, dear friend, Buddhist wisdom gives you a completely different, liberating perspective. Listen to this soothing truth. Your value has never lain in what you produce. It lies exactly in your presence. Your value was never your output. It is your presence. Imagine the image of a grandfather sitting quietly in the late afternoon, his ears patiently listening to his grandchild talking about troubles at school. Or the image of a grandmother sitting peacefully in the garden, her affectionate eyes gazing at every blooming flower bud. Those moments do not create money, do not create productivity according to the world's yardstick. But do you see? Exactly, the stillness and tolerance radiating from them have built a climate of peace for the whole family. That is not doing, that is being. In the wisdom of awakening, you need to understand that you are not a tool. You are a life. You are not a tool. You are a life. A tree does not become less valuable when autumn comes and it stops bearing fruit. It is still a sturdy anchor for Mother Earth, a shelter for birds, and the profound beauty of the forest. You are the same. The fact that you are no longer busy does not mean your light has dimmed. Sometimes, precisely in stillness and being useless in the eyes of worldly people, does wisdom truly begin to take root most strongly. Tonight, grant your soul a tolerant recognition. Whisper, I do not need to do anything to become precious. My presence right now is already a grace for the world. Sleep in the silent pride of someone who has gone far enough to realize that a human being is a treasure right from the first breath, not thanks to what they hold in their hands. The night is deep. Let all pressure to be useful melt into the darkness, returning to you the most whole and sovereign being. Lie 5. If I let go, everything will collapse. We have spent a lifetime becoming diligent managers for the whole family. You believe that if you just worry enough, calculate carefully enough, you can control the direction of destiny, from keeping children on the right path, protecting the family's honor, to maintaining absolute harmony among members. You silently carry the cruel belief that, if I stop shouldering, everything will collapse into 100 pieces. You believe you are the only anchor keeping the ship of life from being swept away by storms. However, dear friend, standing before the forgiving darkness tonight, I want to gift you a thoroughly liberating truth. This world is inherently a flow beyond the reach of any individual will. In Buddhist wisdom, the effort to control excessively is actually the clearest manifestation of clinging. The liberating truth is this: you are not holding the world back at all. You are only holding back extreme tension inside your own blood vessels and nervous system. All things operate according to the law of cause and condition and their rhythm, regardless of whether you grip your hands tightly or not. Control, in fact, is only fear wearing the cloak of responsibility. What if letting go does not create chaos as you always feared, but actually creates space for life to breathe? Engrave this soothing truth into your heart. Life will become much easier to breathe the very moment you decide to loosen your grip. Life breathes easier when we loosen our grip. When you dare to abandon the role of a universe manager, you are granting your children the right to grow from their own stumbles. You are allowing your house to be still, to rediscover natural peace. You no longer owe the world any guarding. Tonight, let all chess pieces lie still on the banquet table of life. Allow your hands to open wide so the soul can be weightless and completely trust in the great flow of the universe. You have finished your part of the work. Now, allow yourself to rest in absolute entrustment. Lie 6. Family will always understand me. Dear friend, there is a silent pain that often visits the hearts of older people after family gatherings. That is the feeling of being lost right amidst those we love most. We hope that because of blood ties, because of attachment for half a century, children or life partners must see through all our feelings, all sacrifices, and all changes inside our souls. However, the liberating truth that Buddhist wisdom wants to gift you tonight is, everyone is living in a separate inner kingdom with completely different emotional filters. We often suffer because children do not understand our slowness, or life partners do not recognize our secret concerns. But do you realize an ironic reality? Children usually only see the strong father, mother in their childhood memories, and cannot see your gradually purifying and sensitive soul in the present. Even the life partner who shared a bed for 7 decades, sometimes they only understand the story about you, not your constantly evolving being right this moment. Understand this tolerant truth. This is not a failure of love. It is simply the limit of understanding between human beings. In ancient wisdom, the Buddha taught that we connect with each other like waves in the same ocean, but each wave has its own dance and rhythm. We are connected like waves in the same ocean, but each wave moves differently. When you accept that misunderstanding is an inevitable part of human life, your heart will no longer be hurt by the heartlessness or clumsiness of children and grandchildren. You realize that love does not require perfect understanding. Love does not require perfect understanding. Tonight, gift your family a present of freedom. Allow them not to have to understand you completely. Do not force other waves to move your way. When you stop craving recognition from relatives, you will find yourself no longer lonely. You are radiant and sovereign in your own silence, loving them with unconditional love, as expansive as the vast ocean embracing all agitated waves. Sleep in absolute reconciliation with the limits of human love, so the soul can truly rest in peace. Lie 7. Peace will come in the future. Dear friend, try quietly looking back at the map of your life. Have we spent most of our time living in a posture of waiting? When young, we waited for a stable career before allowing ourselves to relax. In middle age, we waited for children to grow up, waited for the house to be fully paid off to seek serenity. And even right now, at age 70, your mind might still be whispering, "I will truly be at peace when this illness subsides," or "I will feel secure when all the troubles out there are completely solved." Inadvertently, we have turned peace into a kind of reward, a destination lying at the end of the road, a gift only bestowed when all conditions of the world have become perfect. However, Buddhist wisdom gives you a powerfully awakening truth. Peace has never been a destination. Peace is a way of walking. The Buddha called this ultimate stillness Santi. He taught that if you cannot find peace right in this breath, right when you are lying amidst darkness and reality still has many unfinished things, then you will never find it at any other ideal moment. Why is that? Because the mind never runs out of things to do, and life never runs out of waves to crash. If you wait for the storm to completely stop to find peace, you will have to wait until your last breath. The liberating truth is this: peace is not an event scheduled in the future. It is a practice right this moment. When you allow your mind to retire for just one breath, without judging, without wishing reality to be different, that is exactly when Santi is present. Tonight, I invite you to perform an act of wisdom. Instead of asking, "When will peace come?" try whispering, "Peace is here, just waiting for me to realize it." Feel the relaxation of muscles when you stop chasing some perfect moment. Engrave this truth before sinking into deep sleep. Peace is never scheduled for tomorrow. Peace can only be practiced right now. Peace is not scheduled. It is practiced. When you realize peace is not a reward of completion, but a quality of presence, your shoulders will automatically lighten. The night is deep. Allow your soul to rest right amidst incomplete things, because exactly that surrender is the door guiding you into the paradise of eternal stillness. Lie 8. I must carry what hurts me. Dear friend, try quietly observing the spiritual backpack you have been wearing on your back for 7 decades. Do you ever, on silent nights like this, suddenly feel your chest tighten because of the fragments of the past? Those are stones named resentment toward someone who left, rocks of regret about a missed opportunity, or the burden of a guilt complex about youthful clumsiness. Furthermore, it is also attachment to past old titles, like the image of someone always strong, always successful, making you feel pain when reality is no longer like that. We silently believe that holding tightly to pain is a way to remain loyal to the past, or to remind ourselves not to forget blood and tears lessons. However, Buddhist wisdom gifts you an awakening image. Holding on to resentment and regret is just like you holding a sharp-edged stone yourself and tiring your hands. While the person who caused the mistake or that event might have vanished into nothingness a long time ago. Holding resentment is like carrying a stone. The other person may have forgotten, but you still carry the weight. The cruel truth is, the person who hurt you has probably moved on with their life. The world still operates, Only you are the one voluntarily imprisoning yourself in the prison of memory. You do not keep that pain to punish the world. You are keeping it to torture your own soul every night. Tonight, I invite you to perform an act of ultimate compassion for yourself. Understand that forgiving is not justifying what happened in the past. Forgiving is a brave act to liberate your own future. Forgiveness does not excuse the past. It frees the future. You do not need to wait for an apology to feel relieved. You do not need to change the past to be at peace. Sometimes the kindest, wisest action you can do for yourself after a 70-year journey is simply set the stone down. Imagine in your mind you are standing on the bank of a gently flowing river. Take each stone of resentment, of regret, of old titles out of your heart and gently drop them into the water stream. Watch them slowly sink and vanish. The night is deep. The breath is light. You owe the past no more torment. You deserve to step into sleep with completely empty hands and a heart as weightless as sky clouds. Let what hurt you rest completely, to make room for the light of freedom to radiate in your own inner house right tonight. Do you realize something? Letting go of a false belief rooted for a lifetime is usually not a noisy or dramatic event. There will be no loud bang, only the tension of the nervous system, all this time suddenly dissipating. The only thing that disappears is exactly the fatigue you mistakenly thought was a part of age. When the lie about time falls away, this reality suddenly becomes brilliant and priceless in every breath. When the illusion of sacrifice vanishes, the love within you only truly becomes authentic and free. And when the burden of having to be useful is no longer there, the sacred dignity of a life will return to reside in your heart. Tonight, I invite you to linger in silence for just 1 minute. Honestly ask your soul, which lie has imprisoned me the longest? And in your mind, gently set it down on the floor next to your bed. You have lost nothing at all. You are just becoming lighter, one breath at a time, one truth at a time. Wishing you a long night of peace, as weightless as sky clouds and waking up radiantly in the light of awakening tomorrow. Goodbye, and see you again.